He may be mostly remembered as a drunk, sleazy ex-football player, but Big Willie Lane is just as much a spoiled brat as he is a bully.
You're even better than a single lady.
Yay!
I like this little chicken chest. He's got spirit.
Yay! Ow, my head.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, let's do this. William Lane, better known as Big Willie Lane, or just that guy that blocked that kick that one time. Voiced by Phil Hendry, who also voiced Coach Sowers. Surprisingly, Willie actually appears in 2 episodes, with his first appearance being a blink and you'll miss it moment from I Never Promised You an Organic Garden.
Hey Dad, wanna see me?
No.
But you don't know what
No.
Did you see it? We see the player stats for Willie Lane on the television, with his height supposedly 6'5", or 1.96 meters in peasant units, though to me that looks more like 6'9", I could be wrong. But his weight is clearly listed at 230 pounds. It also lists his college as Texas and his position as quarterback. Yeah, something's not right there. We hear later that he's a lineman and he's number 63, which is an offensive lineman's number. But also his stats line up with a quarterback stats. I mean, he's listed at 6'5", 230, but Tom Brady is 6'4", 225. Now, granted, linemen have gotten bigger since Willie's playing days. The average weight for a lineman back then would have been around 250 pounds, whereas today it's over 300, so yeah, it's kind of odd that he has QB stats, but a lineman's number. Anywho, his main appearance came in New Cowboy on the Block, where the guys see someone new moving into the neighborhood, with Bill deluding himself into believing that it's a single woman.
She's tired of the bar scene and is looking for a man to share her foosball table and beer can collection with.
But once we and the guys get a look at old Big Willie, Bill realizes that he's wrong, well, eventually. It takes him a second to get there because, you know, it's Bill. He's sometimes a few Brady short of a bunch.
It is a lady. A big lady. It's a man.
Willie greets the guys, and I gotta give him props here. This is a good way to break the ice with new neighbors. And something we see Willie being good at in this episode is knowing how to talk to people.
I didn't know this was the type of neighborhood where guys stood outside drinking beer. And I'm totally psyched, man. I'm totally psyched.
We officially meet Willie Lane, a name that the guys recognize immediately, while also giving us the information that Willie played as a backup lineman for the Cowboys from 1976 to 1979. And I guess this would be a good time to mention that Willie Lane is not real. Yeah, he's just made up for the show.
Anybody ever tell you that you've got the same name as a Dallas Cowboy backup lineman from the 1976 to 79 seasons?
Hank gives us the rundown on what Willie's known for, more on that here in a second, and Dale gives us some different information which, if I'm being honest, would not surprise me if that was also true.
Blocked a kick to beat the 49ers.
Then was cut 1 year later and moved down to Mexico, where he now wrestles animals for tourists' pennies.
Okay, so the thing about that kick. His claim to fame is that he blocked a kick against the 49ers the year before he was cut from the team, meaning this would have occurred during the 1978 season. Problem is, the Cowboys didn't play the 49ers during the 78 season, and later on, when Willie shows off a picture of him blocking said kick, well, that's clearly not the 49ers who look like this, and instead, that looks like the Miami Dolphins, who the Cowboys did play in 1978, though they lost the game 23-16.
Whoa, that's a Super Bowl ring. Sweet Lord, you're Big Willie Lane.
So Willie flashes his ring for the first of many times in this episode, and if you're wondering how accurate that ring is, well, you're in the right place. Willie played from 76 to 79, meaning he was on the team when the Cowboys won Super Bowl 12 at the end of the 77 season. The ring he's wearing is clearly based on the design of a real Cowboys Super Bowl ring. However, this is the ring for the Cowboys winning Super Bowl 6 at the end of the 1971 season, whereas this is the ring given out for Super Bowl 12, so Willie should have this ring, not this ring. Anywho, his ring flashing gets the desired reaction. I mean, he's a former Cowboy who won a Super Bowl, and he's in Texas, so yeah, flashing that ring is gonna open some doors. Later on, Willie ends up coming by the Hill House where Hank acts rather nervous, but does manage to introduce Willie to Peggy, and Willie continues to be a silver-tongued devil.
Oh, Willie, this is my wife, Peggy.
Hey, didn't you used to be one of our cheerleaders?
Now, before anyone laughs at Peggy for the whole cheerleader crack, let's not forget this. Willie teaches Bobby how to catch a ball, and he's right, you do catch the ball with your hands, not your body. Yeah, you're gonna jam your fingers, and they may not be the straightest things in the world afterwards, but you catch much better that way.
Listen here, buddy. You have to catch it out in front with your hands, not try to cradle it into your body. It's a little something Billy Joe Dupree showed me.
Billy Joe Dupree?
For those wondering, Billy Joe Dupree was a tight end that played for the Cowboys from 1973 to 1983. Hank tells Bobby to listen to any advice that Willie gives him since he played under and learned from Tom Landry. This will end up being a mistake, but we'll get to that. And Willie ends up inviting Hank over to watch the football game later on.
There's a Cowboys game on later if you want to come over.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
And you can bring the guys. They seem pretty cool.
See, Peggy, I told you the guys were cool.
Except they prove that they are not, in fact, cool when they show up all gussied up just to watch a Cowboys game. Willie, on the other hand, is in the basic shorts and flip-flops ensemble, though he is wearing his old jersey, which has seen better days.
No, don't go out of bounds! Wuss!
Passion.
He asks them to bring a different beer in the future, which I totally get. All evidence points to Alamo being a lighter Pilsner beer, whereas Sam Adams is a darker, more traditional lager. And Sam Adams is actually pretty damn good, and yet it can get kind of pricey. For those wondering, I'm a Guinness fan. The beer, not the World Record Book. Same company though. They actually created the World Record Book in order to settle arguments in taverns. Also, just my opinion, but if he's hosting, Willie can either provide himself with beer, or he can provide everyone with beer. A host should not be expecting others to bring the beer.
Hey, if we do this again, would you guys mind bringing Sam Adams instead of Alamo?
No problem, I'll just dip into my son's college fund.
During halftime, Willie shows off his little shrine to himself, and yeah, I already covered how that couldn't possibly be the picture of him blocking the famous kick.
Hank, you've seen this. It's the football from that kick I blocked. Oh, and here's a picture from that kick I blocked.
And Hank pulls out a card he brought with him, and it's probably enlarged due to television, but that is a freakishly large card. I mean, that's closer to the side of a Polaroid picture.
Well, who's that handsome stud?
That's you before the weight gain.
Nah.
Good one, Dale. So the Cowboys win the game. Not gonna lie, I'd be interested in how Willie would have reacted if they'd lost. I'm guessing it would not have gone well, because you gotta understand, Willie's not just a fan, he's reliving his glory days vicariously. Put on your waders, folks, it's about to get deep for a minute. So we don't know where Willie is originally from, but I'm willing to bet it's probably somewhere in Texas. Football, like Bluebell ice cream, is pretty big in Texas, that shouldn't surprise anyone. And the state is full of kids who dream of becoming a Texas Longhorn and then a Dallas Cowboy. And Big Willie Lane, against the odds, actually achieved it. Granted, he was a backup and not a first stringer, but he saw enough playing time that he blocked a kick. And he was good enough to play backup for 4 seasons, plus he won a Super Bowl. He achieved his and a ridiculous number of people's dream. And then it ended. He worked for years to climb up the mountain and reach the peak, but once you're up there, the only place to go is down. Now, something to keep in mind is that even today, the average NFL career lasts 3 seasons, and much of that is due to injury. Players take a lot of damage over their entire football career. I'm talking from when they start down in 3rd or 4th grade, all the way to the pros. That is a lot of wear and tear on the body, and Big Willie was no exception when it came to sacrificing his body to the football gods. There's a pretty good chance that he has knee and or back issues. Those are pretty common among former players, especially linemen, and a lot of former athletes tend to rely on alcohol to help deal with the chronic pain. But it's not just physical pain he's dealing with, but also emotional. Here is a man whose life had peaked years before. He clings to a moment that occurred a quarter century before this episode took place. He's kind of like those guys that played high school ball, and that was basically their peak, so they spend the rest of their lives wishing that they could go back and relive them. Uncle Rico was a great example of this. By the way, fun fact, the guy that played Uncle Rico also played Wolfman in the Monster Squad.
Kick him in the north! He doesn't have nards! Do it! Do it! Wolfman's got nards!
Imagine someone whose high school wins state 20 years after they graduated, but they go out and get themselves a state championship ring made. That's the type of thing we're talking about here, and yeah, I know somebody that did that. It's a somewhat crippling form of nostalgia, and for those unaware, nostalgia comes from combining two Greek words that mean homecoming and pain. And underneath everything, the grandstanding and confidence, that's what Big Willie Lane runs on, a longing to return to the good old days.
We did it! Cowboys win! Yeah! Cowboys win!
Anywho, after the game, the guys try to decide when to leave and go ahead and do so, but when Willie throws a party to celebrate the win, yeah, that's the excuse that we're gonna go with here, the guys kind of wish that they'd stuck around.
If I ever get back inside that house, I'm never going to leave.
You know, I bet Bill could have just gone over there. I'd change first, but I doubt that Willie would have had an issue with the guys coming over. The party ends up going on for a while, not surprising, plus Hank is giving them a one-time exception to the block charter rules, which had an interesting effect on Peggy.
Did you move back the curfew in your block charter? Because that would be very sexy.
But as it gets closer to midnight of a school night, Con's not too happy about the noise, hence the rule in the block charter, but Con didn't know that he had an exception, which honestly shouldn't matter because if you're in a neighborhood with several kids nearby, it's probably best not to throw a kegger on a Sunday night.
This guy needs to shut up or get stronger moonshine.
Con gives Willie a call, and to Con's credit here, he's actually very nice, and he makes a totally understandable request in the nicest way possible. Also a nod to Con knowing that the song being played was by Bad Company.
Rock on!
Yes, hello, rock on. And it's getting late. Would you please lower Bad Company?
Willie seems to take this well, being nice himself as he tries to figure out which neighbor Con was for what we, and Con, find out was a pretty messed up reason.
Right on. So, your house has the phone cord running right by the side of the house.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that mattered, but...
Yep, he just cut Con's phone line, and that way not only can Con not bother him again, but he also can't report him to the police without going to someone else's house and using their phone. That was life before cell phones, folks. Instead, Con reacts the way we all expect Con to react, plus or minus a stun gun.
You like making love?
The phone is dead! Where's my stun gun?
Yeah, like I pointed out in my video on Con, he is not one to back down easily, and he heads straight over and confronts Willie, which Hank overhears and comes over to resolve, seeing as he's the block captain. And I gotta say, Willie does give an airtight defense here.
The block captain never stand for nonsense. Hank, he caught my phone cable.
Yeah, right. You're dumb.
And somehow that's all it took for Hank to take Willie's side and accuse Con of lying, which makes no sense seeing as Con has no history of lying about something like that.
Right on, Double H. Right on.
I get that it's Hank choosing to be blinded by the bling of the ring, but I don't know, it just seems a tad out of character for him. Con, of course, isn't happy about it, I can't blame him, but Willie does what Willie does and gets Hank to divert his attention to the possibility of meeting someone.
Would love to meet Roger Starbucks pool cleaner. Come on in and meet him. He's very easy to talk to. Now get on in there.
Hank, I need you. Hank. Block captain.
Look, I'm a lifelong Giants fan, but I wouldn't give two flicks with Fiddler's about meeting Phil Simms' pool cleaner. So Hank's reverence is way overstated here. Not to mention the fact that he would throw away his responsibility as the block captain, a position he takes rather seriously, and that Con reminds him about. But he falls for Willie's trap, hook, line, and sinker, leaving Con dejected outside. Later on, we see the guys hanging out in the alley when Willie comes out asking Hank for a ride to work, which Hank agrees to rather gleefully.
Which one of you sports fans wants to give old Willie a ride to work? How about you, Double H?
Excuse me, guys. Official cowboy business.
And something that's always bothered me here is, when does this take place? It can't be a weekday because Bobby's out of school and the guys are off work, so either this is on a weekend or it's later in the day, meaning he's going into work at like 5 or 6 in the afternoon, which is pretty late for a car salesman to be going in, even if he's just there because he blocked that one kick that one time, which is quite possible. But this is also in autumn, so it wouldn't be bright blue sky at that point. It would be heading into sunset, and he even mentions during the drive that the party was the night before. So seriously, when does this take place?
Hey, thanks for the lift to work. I'm probably still legally drunk from my party.
Hank takes the opportunity to bring up Willie's party from the night before, which Willie is able to defuse rather quickly by coming up with an excuse for partying at home. And yeah, I'll go ahead and say this is probably BS, because I'm willing to bet that if he gets into a fight in a bar, he probably started it.
That's why I party at home. If I get in a fight, at least it's with a friend.
Very responsible.
Hank accepts this because he wants to. Like, seriously, Hank is fanboying out more here than I did when I met Jerry Only. And he's willing to overlook pretty much anything that Willie does, which is a big reason for Willie acting the way Willie acts. Oh, and he tries to sell Hank a truck that supposedly used to be owned by Deion Sanders, which to me, it seems like if I was trying to sell something to a Cowboys fan like Hank, I'd have gone with someone like Troy Aikman or Michael Irving, hell, even Moose Johnston. But that's just me. Luckily, Hank doesn't fall for it.
How'd you like to buy Deion Sanders' truck? I'll give you the friend's price. Hank, thanks for the lift. Rock on.
Rock on.
Dale is a different story, but we'll get to that. The next we see of Willie is when Hank catches him encouraging his Rottweiler Barry Switzer, named after the former Cowboys coach, to do his business on Kahn's lawn, which is a nuclear option in the world of suburban politics.
Barry Switzer, you can do it. There you go.
Hank tells Willie that what he's doing isn't right, and that Kahn wouldn't do the same thing to him. And yet again, Willie uses his charm to defuse a situation without having to change his actions or take responsibility outside of cheap words.
I hear you, brother. I just lost my head for a second. Oh, dang. I forgot my baggie. I'll run home and grab one. Come on, Switzer.
Proof of this is him leaving what Barry Switzer left on Kahn's lawn behind after telling Hank he'd clean it up. We of course know he never had any plans of cleaning it up, that's why he conveniently forgot his baggie. But this does start to open Hank's eyes. Cleaning up somebody else's dog crap will do that. What also helps is Willie tricking Dale into buying a car that doesn't even run, but it supposedly belonged to Deion Sanders.
He gave me the friend's price on cowboy legend Deion Primetime Sanders Hyundai.
Now, I'm not a car expert. We squirrels have a long-standing hatred of cars for what should be obvious reasons, but I believe that this is a Hyundai Excel, which was Hyundai's first car that they exported to the United States and was available until 1994, being replaced with the Accent in 1995. Hey, I had to learn this, so do you. Anywho, Bobby shows off the sweet moves that Willie taught him. Keep in mind that Hank told Bobby to listen to everything that Willie tells him. Though, yeah, it ain't cheating if you don't get caught is not exactly the lesson you want to teach.
Oh, yeah, who's your daddy? Oh, my gosh. Big Willie Lane. Willie says it ain't cheating if you don't get caught.
This is enough to make Hank want to finally confront Willie and be a proper block captain. But more fuel gets added to Hank's fire when he sees what Willie did to Kahn's lawn.
Lawnscape assault is in clear violation of Article 9 of the Charter.
Hank walks right up to Willie and tells him that he's out of line and orders him to fill in the holes he made in Kahn's lawn. And I have to give it to Hank here. He's not afraid to step into the lion's den. And if this had gone a different way, he would have found himself in a Ron White type situation.
I don't know how many of them it would have taken to whip my ass, but I knew how many they were going to use.
So Hank's plan is to lay down the law as block captain and hold Willie responsible for his destructive actions, with Willie seeing reason and filling in the holes that he created.
How'd you like a pep rally? Hey, we could make a bonfire.
Yeah, that didn't work, because of course it didn't work. Willie doesn't care about Hank or anybody else not named Willie, and he proceeds to show just how little he respects Hank by building a quote-unquote bonfire.
No, stop that! All right, that does it.
So Hank calls the cops, which again doesn't work because this ain't Willie's first rodeo, and he knows how to play them like a fiddle.
Sweet Betty, that's a Super Bowl ring. McMurtry, get your keister over here.
Yep. Played them like a whole orchestral fiddle section, which doesn't surprise me. And of course, doesn't surprise Willie because this is what he does. Whatever he wants and with no consequences.
Here, let me try that Super Bowl ring on, will ya?
Last time that thing was off was 500 beers ago.
Willie then turns things on Hank and accuses him of ripping apart the fence and starting the fire, which the cops go with because the guy with the Super Bowl ring would never lie. The cops even end up kicking the ball a few times so that Willie can reenact his famous block. Yeah, that's going a tad far there, fellas. Hank's next plan is to start mowing at 7 a.m., the earliest time allowed by the block charter. But this fails because Willie sleeps right through it. Also, at some point, Willie borrowed Bobby's bike for some odd reason and did not give it back.
Willie borrowed my bike and seems to have lost track of it. For a guy who was a pro athlete, Willie's drunk a lot.
Why would he want Bobby's bike? I doubt he could ride it. Did he pawn it for some Sam Adams money? I mean, I get that he played back when players didn't make much money. The average pay for an offensive lineman in 1978 was $52,250, roughly $244,000 in today's money. I mean, that's good money, but that's not live off the rest of your life money. I just find it odd that Willie always has to get rides to places or, borrows kids' bicycles. He might not have a valid driver's license. Really wouldn't surprise me if he didn't, but I still find it odd. The next plan is to block Willie's hangout spot with Dale's unusable Hyundai Excel. And I feel I should point out at this point that the Excel apparently weighed 2,161 pounds. That's 980 kilograms for those of you who haven't been to the moon, which is useful information to have, seeing as this situation is handled by Willie and his friends simply rolling the car out of the way. And by rolling the car, I mean rolling the car.
Dion's car!
Hank again calls the cops on Willie for obvious reasons, but again they take Willie's side and even brought some other off-duty cops along for a meet and greet with the man, which includes taking photos, and on top of that, Willie gets the cops to give him the damn camera.
Hey, I used to have a camera like that. It must have gotten lost in the move.
Well, here, take this one.
Once they leave, Willie immediately has to poke the bear and hits Con with a football, leading to Con finally snapping. Again, props to Con for not being afraid to stand up to Willie.
I help you get the hell out of my neighborhood, you big, fat, muscle-headed load of rat jackal pig dog waste!
You just called me a pig?
Wait, that's all Willie took from that was pig? Rat jackal pig dog waste, and all he got from it was pig? Apparently to Willie, them's there fighting words, but Con ain't done yet. I mean, he's gone this far. Keep on going there, buddy.
But if you can do it, then any idiot can do it.
Hank steps between them, being the block captain and all, and Willie just kinda decides, screw it, I'm Big Willie Lane. More like Big Willie Lame, am I right? Anywho, props to Hank for taking that one like a champ, especially since that Super Bowl ring was involved. But Willie is not deterred with the threat of assault charges, knowing that he can play the cops like he always does, due to lack of evidence, plus he's got his buddies to back him up.
You see me hit this guy? Yeah, no, he tried to rob you.
You know, when you really think about it, Willie is a lot like another side character, Hoyt Platter. Both are textbook examples of what happens when someone lives a life without consequences. It's just that Willie is a whole nother level of manipulation, and in all honesty, Willie really is just an overgrown child who never gets told no. And when he does, he talks his way into getting his way. Anywho, Willie used his ring hand and hit Hank hard enough to leave an impression of said Super Bowl ring, meaning that he left evidence of assault, which they promptly take a picture of before it goes away. And then we get a rather important scene when Willie's gang tries to get their hands on the picture.
Squirrel tactic!
Yep, that's where it comes from. So, with the evidence safely stowed away at Dale's, Willie changes his tune. Again, like a child who can't come up with a way to get out of trouble.
Assault? Willie can't afford another assault charge, partner. That'd be totally uncool.
Even fidgeting with his ring like he's trying to figure out how to use it to his advantage while also stammering and referring to himself in the third person. Hank uses the threat of an assault charge to finally force Willie out of the neighborhood, giving him 2 weeks to leave.
I'm gonna need more time than that.
The charter clearly states that when a neighbor is deposed, they get 2 weeks to get off the block.
And that's the last we see of Big Willie Lane. I'm guessing he moved out within the next 2 weeks and moved on to the next neighborhood full of people he could use until they caught on and he was forced to move again. I've got a feeling this is a pattern for Willie.
In my experience, a lot of people say they're gonna hit you. but not many actually do it.
So, Big Willie Lane, he was a former backup professional football player who used his fame as a one-time cowboy, as well as blocking that one kick that one time, to live his life on as easy of a mode as possible, no matter how it may have negatively affected those around him. He's very firmly stuck in the past, though luckily a lot of cowboy fans are, so he uses that to his advantage. But any pity people may feel for him is dashed away by his surprising level of selfishness. Again, he's like a spoiled child who's never told no, and if he's presented with a no, he finds a way to make it into a yes. Makes sense that he'd be a used car salesman. He knows how to talk to people, and I'm sure he's amazing at networking. He's also not afraid to use whatever bullying tactics are necessary. But when the lights turn low and the fans go home, all that's left is Willie Lane, a man who drinks himself to sleep every night and justifies it every morning.
Hey, Country Bad Jamboree. My grandma sent me birthday check, but it's not in my mailbox. Which one of you take it?
Why would we steal your check?
How do I know? Maybe your wife needs a new pitchfork.